The United States should remember and should ask itself a question: for the recent decades, who lobbied the spread of drugs and the legalization of drugs? Mentally, philosophically, theoretically, and practically, who made the American society accustomed to the so-called new normalcy, where drugs is a relief, a salvation from all misfortunes, from depression, a source of entertainment and leisure. Perhaps one should look for this very person, for those very criminals inside the American elites. Perhaps they should ask a question: who inside the country, inside the United States, lobbied for the spread of drugs and facilitates the spread of drugs? Who was engaged in those activities on international platforms for many years? Speaking on behalf of the United States, who were in favor of supplement therapy when people who had addiction to drugs were not supposed to be treated. And this policy was falsely criticized, and this addiction was not, and perhaps this should have been the initial point. And they should have paid a good deal of attention to this issue. When Russia, including on international platforms, has brought up these questions for some reason, those were the representatives of the Western communities. The United States criticized Russia for such an approach. And now they say that those were different authorities, different American representatives, but nevertheless they are U.S. citizens. They hold high-ranking positions. They are on board of directors of large companies. Perhaps we should ask them a question: how did it come that the cities of United States are now a venue for such a big number of drug addicts? They are doing it openly, and they are dying from drugs in the streets. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your question. Ukraina.ru, are you with us? Good afternoon. I have 3 questions. My first question: Slovakia, Hungary, and Czech Republic are going to organize the so-called anti-Ukrainian coalition, allegedly understanding that the Brussels policy towards Moscow is dangerous. Could this coalition create the prerequisites for peace in Ukraine by way of the EU's departure from a harsh war policy? We have already given an answer to a similar question during our last briefing. Then your colleagues asked about Hungary. I will repeat our position. At present, there is no legally formalized union of the mentioned 3 European countries. There is only a coincidence of their interests on certain issues of the international agenda. Rather, it is only about the possible coordination of their efforts. Bratislava, Budapest, and Prague, in upholding their national interests in the face of constant pressure from the European bureaucracy and Washington, and so on. Let me reiterate, we appreciate the pragmatic approach of individual states to building a constructive dialogue with our country, the demonstration of sovereign approaches to principled international issues. It's a heroic deed in the modern world when it comes to domestic agenda and to principled international issues. My second question: how would you comment on the crisis in the British royal family around the situation, the scandal around King Charles' brother Prince Andrew, who was a friend with Epstein and participated in his orgies? This is a manifestation of the general crisis of the elites of the Western countries, which are becoming increasingly inadequate, isn't it? First and foremost, we do not comment on such questions, first and foremost on the basis of principle of non-interference into affairs of other states and following the norms of moral and ethics, and we will make no comments in this regard. But on the other hand, they themselves undermine this very ethics by lecturing us all the time on moral values and ethical values and norms, not merely lecturing us, but imposing their ideas and understanding in this regard. That is why my second point will be the following. I believe that you have already answered your own question when you cited concrete facts, not some vague ideas. And my third point, you mentioned European elites. Why only European elites? It is the case of ruling elites in the West. They are not holding the power, but those who have concentrated every means of financial and political power and rule, the influence on decision-making. No doubt this is the case of crisis, which is happening indeed, and everyone who has the courage to speak about this, does this and comments on this. The former foreign minister of Austria wrote a book on the matter, and you can get familiar with this book, and she says not about only the degradation of Europe, but about the Europe is perishing, the Europe is dying, and this all is happening inside these ruling elites. Besides all of this, we see on numerous occasions that people which are not fit for this position are coming to the power. They are demonstrating professional incompetence, a low level of general culture, ideological narrow-mindedness. And responding to the previous question, I have already spoken about this, but they are trying to legalize, to justify, to praise the addictions of the modern generation. This is the progressing degradation of the Western elites, which is expressed in their loss of understanding of the goals of the development of society and the individual traditional values and any social norms. And as a result, we can see such horrific manifestations as the transplantation of sexual organs of children, abandonment of the traditional understanding of family, the replacement, the substitution of it by some simulations, the undermining of very primordial ideas and achievements by their own ideas. They are merely exterminating traditional values. And these are the manifestation of this crisis we are seeing. You have already commented on nuclear tests and statements made by Trump. Perhaps you can add something in this regard. I did not quite understand this question. Please rephrase it. How did Donald Trump's statements regarding nuclear tests influence Russia-US contacts? I have already given an answer to it. And the other day, the Security Council of Russia held a meeting, and the instruction voiced by President can be a response to your question as well. The relevant instructions were received by the Foreign Ministry, and the Foreign Ministry got down to implementing the task which was set by the leadership of Russia.